Assalamu alaikum everyone. Time has just struck 6:30 and it is our time to discuss the 10 who are promised Jannah. Inshallah, your Ramadan is going splendid, excellent, amazing. And we left off with finishing Uthman ibn Affan's time. And now we are moving into Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fourth Khalifa after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the fourth to be promised Jannah in the hadith of the 10 Ashara Mubashara. So, let's get started. To begin, when Ali was born, he was not actually named Ali. Abu Talib was not around when the mother of Ali gave birth, and so she named him Asad as in the lion. And Abu Talib later came back and then changed the name to Ali. This is how Ali received his name, Ali ibn Abi Talib. And so as time went on, Ali ended up growing up in the household of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when the da'wah came, or when the Prophet ﷺ started to, when he was first given the message, Ali was around 10 years old. Ali one day walks in and he sees Khadija and the Prophet ﷺ praying. And so Ali asked what it was that they were doing. Again, this is new, at least to this area. And they explained that they were worshipping Allah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that the Prophet ﷺ made Ali aware of what it is that he was about. And Ali, what was the message, that we worship only one God, and that is Allah, and that we deny the idols, and all of these other points that the Prophet ﷺ was spreading to Ali. And from that, Ali thought about it and he accepted the offer to become Muslim. And Ali is only at this time 10 or 11. Can you imagine the bravery of Ali and the wisdom of Ali at that time? And later on, Abu Talib saw Ali and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam praying, and he questioned the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, what is this? And again, same thing. The Prophet explained to him what it was that was going on, and he said, for me, Abu Talib, this is Abu Talib talking, for me, I cannot leave the religion of my forefathers. Right? We know that this was what Abu Talib stuck on until he passed away, right? That he cannot leave the religion of his forefathers, the idol worship that his forefathers invented and were doing. He said he couldn't leave it. He said, but for you, and he tells Ali, but you stick to him, meaning stick to the Prophet ﷺ, for there is guidance in this. And he's telling Ali to follow the Prophet ﷺ, his own son. Although this is the way of my forefathers, Ali, this is better for you. Very interesting. And Ali has said that on a number of occasions, he in Mecca would be walking with the Prophet ﷺ, and he said he could hear the rocks, the trees, the bushes sending the salam to the Prophet ﷺ. Look at this. First of all, look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed him to hear this, right? To be able to hear these inanimate objects, the trees, the rocks, saying their salams to the Prophet ﷺ. He heard it, right? That's a blessing, and it shows you the nature of the Prophet ﷺ, that he in fact is blessed, and he in fact is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Another thing that we learn about the time in Ali when he was in Mecca is the famous time when the Prophet ﷺ left from Mecca to Medina. Remember, everyone doing the hijrah left in secret. We know that Umar ibn Khattab left publicly, right? And the Prophet ﷺ waited till everyone left, And so the Quraysh of Mecca, they had a plan, and this plan was devious. It was satanic, and the idea was this: Muhammad has been a thorn in our side. Now they don't know that he's not leaving, right? So Muhammad has driven us to our wits' end. How are we going to deal with him? And so they had a council, and Abu Jahl, from my understanding, who was inspired, or that Shaitan gave them the idea that have someone, it was actually Abu Jahl who's saying, have someone, Shaitan was in disguise in this particular meeting, right? And he says, Abu Jahl says, have someone from every tribe, right? So from this tribe, from that tribe, and this tribe, everyone stabbed the Prophet ﷺ at the same time. This way, his family, Bani Hashim, cannot exact their revenge. They cannot come after this tribe or that tribe. There's too many tribes involved in this for them to be able to come back for revenge, right? And Shaitan, being at this meeting, says, yes, that's it. That's the one. That's the answer. Gets excited. Then he leaves. And then, so this is their plan. They get all the young men together. They have their blades, and they're waiting until the night. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them to sleep. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sneaks out while they all have fallen asleep. And Ali volunteers to sleep in the bed of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and dress up and disguise himself as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look how brave this young man is. At this time, close, or if not, definitely in his 20s by then. He agrees to sleep in the bed of the Prophet ﷺ as if he were him. And so the Prophet leaves. Quraysh come. They come to kill. They wake up and they finally come, and they come to kill the Prophet ﷺ, but they find Ali instead. So they take Ali. They're amazed by this, right? The Prophet's long gone. They take Ali and they're interrogating him. And as they're interrogating him, they're beating him, they're hitting him, slapping him up. They beat him up really bad, and they're saying, where is the Prophet? He says, I know just as much as you know. Right? This is what Ali is telling them. And they finally leave Ali alone. And then Ali, on his own, listen to this. This is amazing. So traveling from Mecca to Medina is probably something like, I don't know, leaving from Chicago to maybe Michigan, or Chicago to Indiana, or something like that, right? Ali decides that when he leaves, he doesn't have a mount, because Ali didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a mount. He didn't have a companion to go with him. He went by himself on foot with whatever he could carry as far as water and provisions, right? By himself. Took him 2 weeks, and because it was so hot during the day, Ali would travel during the night, right? So during the day, he would rest. He wouldn't travel. He would try and get his rest, and then towards Maghrib or something like that, closer to the evening time, he would then walk, and walk and walk and walk. And this one lecture that I was watching, they did the calculations. They said it was about 40 miles a day that he had traveled on his own, something like that. Walking in the thick of the night in the desert. And it's not like how nighttime is around here, right? Like at nighttime we can walk the streets, we got the street lights, we can see real well, that sort of, it's darkness, pitch black. This is what Ali at that young age was able to do, and the Prophet ﷺ was worried about him. The Prophet ﷺ, obviously, right? Alhamdulillah, he made it, and that was his hijrah. Now here's the interesting thing. When Ali gets to Medina, Ali engages in the Battle of Badr, and we know this is the famous Battle of Badr. We know that the people who participated in the Battle of Badr are the best among the Sahaba, and we know that Ali was at this battle. Now, here's the interesting thing about this battle. In the beginning, in the old times, they would start battles off with what was called Mubarazah, right? Basically, it's like a duel. Before we have the actual battle, you take your best from your side, we'll take our best from our side, and they'll duel like on one-on-one battles, and then we'll start the actual battle. And so this one family, 3 men came out, and then these 3 men said that, who's your champions? Bring your champions out, right? And the 3 champions that came, the Prophet ﷺ originally sent out 3 men. They denied this. Said, no, we want, relatives for relatives kind of thing. So the Prophet ﷺ sent out Hamza, right? And then he sent out Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then he sent out Hudayfa, who was like a cousin to the Prophet ﷺ. And Ali had a sword. Everybody knows about this sword. It's a famous sword. That at the curve of the sword, it's kind of like scissors, right? Like it was open-ended. So imagine one blade and then another blade right on top of it. From doing the description of it, right? So Ali had like these twin blades, were really amazing and unique to Ali. And Ali won easily against the guy he faced off with, and Hamza won easily against the guy he faced off with, and Hudayfa won. But Hudayfa was also wounded. And so then the Battle of Badr commenced, and the Muslims won, as we know. Ali was gifted some armor from this battle. And again, as we said earlier, Ali was not the wealthiest of people. He hears about Fatima, right? Now, who is Fatima? Let's discuss this. Who is Fatima? Fatima is the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not only is she his daughter, she is the 4th or one of the 4 greatest women of all time. And we know that these women are Khadija. We know that they are Fatima. We know among them is Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, and of course the mother of Isa alayhi salam, Maryam. So these 4 women are considered the 4 greatest women of all time. Fatima makes this list, and she marries Ali. What an honor, what a blessing to be married to one of the 4 greatest women of all time, right? The daughter of the Prophet ﷺ as well. So Ali hears that someone wants to ask for Fatima's hand. Ali's poor. He doesn't have wealth like that. And so his servant who helps Ali is telling him, Ali, you are more deserving of this. You should ask. And Ali is like, I have nothing. What can I ask with? But he finally convinces Ali, and Ali builds up the courage. He goes to the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet is, what do you need? What brings you here, sort of thing. And Ali is shy and he's nervous. He doesn't know what to say, and he as they say, as the phrase goes, cat catches your tongue, right? He can't speak, and he's just, he can't talk. And so Ali, so the Prophet ﷺ jumps the gun. He says, are you here to ask for Fatima's head, right? The Prophet already knew, subhanAllah. And Ali says, yes, ya Rasulullah. Can you imagine the pressure that was off of him, right, with that, right? And so the Prophet says, well, what do you have? Ali says, I have nothing. The Prophet says, what about that armor that I gave you from the Battle of Badr? He says, yes, I have that. So the Prophet says, go sell that, then bring the money, and whatever, right? So Ali goes. Uthman ibn Affan, right? And this is we know that some people try to say that Ali had issues with the 4 khulafa or the 3 khulafa that came before him. Ali had no issues with them at all. He loved all of them. Uthman purchased the armor, gives him 400 dirhams for it. And then, everyone knew why he was selling this armor. So Uthman says, you know what? I think this armor would be better used for you than for me, right? This is what he's telling Ali, because, Ali is known as the warrior, right? And Ali says, yeah, you're probably right. He says, here, it's a gift. So what happens? Look how Allah is supporting him, right? When you want to do khair, when you want to do good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will back you. He will stand on your side when it's good for you, when it is something that you are sincere about, right? So he says, here, take the armor, keep the money, Go ahead, right? So he gets $400, 400 dirhams to pay for the mahar for Fatima, and he gets his armor back. Subhanallah. And you know, he is blessed with the marriage of Fatima. Let's move forward. Um, Ali, one time, Fatima. Now this is very interesting, and it really lets us know about how the women of that time were different, right? Fatima was saying, there's a hadith where it's described the type of work that Fatima had to do, being married to Ali. She would change the saddles, she would feed the animals. I mean, she did clean the house, and it was said to the point that the dirt that she was cleaning was on her. That's how much she was cleaning and how much she was taking care of. And she was, she worked hard as the wife to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And so she went to her father, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said to him, I need a servant. I need help. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had just gotten back from an expedition, and they had some people who were available to be servants. And so the Prophet, so she says to her father, I need a servant. It's too much for me. And so the Prophet ﷺ came to their house one day, and the narration goes that he laid down between the two of them, right? So like they're both side by side to him. Like, can you, if you can imagine this, like this family moment, he lays in between the two of them, his son-in-law and his cousin and his daughter, and he says to them, I have something better for you. And then he gives them what we do, right, which is Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, and Allahu Akbar 34 times, right? This is what he says to her, this is better for you. So let us remember this, right? Like when this is something that we should also be doing, right? And we said, if you guys watch my talk on Saturdays, we were saying about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala magnifies all the good deeds that we do, right? Every time you say or remember Allah, instead of giving you one hasanah, He gives you 10, right? So look at that, by saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, all those hasanahs are given to you, right? So this is something else, another story that happened with Ali and Fatima, right? And then there's a very beautiful story where Ali is called Abu Turab, which is the father of dirt, right? And you would think this is a terrible name to give to someone, right? So one time the Prophet ﷺ comes over to the house of Fatima and Ali, and he's looking for Ali. Look at this. Remember, this is the Prophet ﷺ and father-in-law to Ali and father to Fatima. And Fatima says to the Prophet ﷺ, I don't know where Ali, he's looking for Ali. He says, I don't know where Ali is at. He left out, we had an argument, or we had a disagreement, right? And this is normal. This is something that we have to understand about people in the Sahaba. Although they are Sahaba, although they are the best generation, they are human beings. And sometimes we have disputes, we have disagreements. We don't necessarily always agree, and that's fine. It's a part of life. So Ali was so upset that he left the house, right? And, he had nowhere to go. The Prophet ﷺ is looking for Ali, right? Now, look at this, right? Some people think, oh, okay, father, I'm going to protect my daughter. Who are you to disagree with my daughter? And sometimes that happens now, right? That happens now. The Prophet ﷺ, so understanding. He understands people. He understands how to deal with people. So he goes and he's looking for Ali, and he says, they point him out. Ali's in the back of the masjid, and he's sleeping in the back of the masjid. And in those days, as we know, the ground of the masjid was gravel, it was dirt. So Ali is rolling around in his dirt as he's sleeping, and the Prophet ﷺ comes to Ali and tells him, stand, O father of the dirt. Like jokingly, with humor. right? To soften Ali, right? This is not to humiliate Ali. This is not to tear down Ali. The Prophet ﷺ had a great sense of humor, alhamdulillah, and he was able to just, just immediately greet him with softness. And Ali said that when being called that, this is a name that Ali liked to be called, or he would sometimes call himself that, Abu Turab, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ called him that in that particular instance. That's one story about Ali and Fatima. Now, let's move on to something else. And that is, we also know that Ali had two sons, Hassan. Actually, he had 4 children with Fatima. He had Hassan, and he had Hussein, he had Zainab, and he had Kulthum. So he named his daughters after the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ, right? As an honor, of course, obviously, right? And so, we know how much the Prophet ﷺ loved Hassan and Hussein. These are his grandsons, and they would play on his back while he was in Salah sometimes. He would be praying, and his grandchildren would come on his back, and he would wait until they get off and finish leading the Salah. This happened. Such a beautiful environment and vibe, right? So these were the 4 children that he had with Fatima. He had many other children with other wives after the death of Fatima, but he never married another wife while married to the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. And we see this same thing with Uthman, right? Uthman did not marry another wife while married to the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. And then we move on, right, to in the battle of Al-Khandaq, right, which is the battle of the trench. There was another mubaraza, right? And this particular man fighting on the side of Mecca. And at this time, this battle was a battle that was devised against Mecca, but Mecca was able to create some type of betrayal from the Jews who lived in the city at that time with the Prophet ﷺ. They betrayed the Prophet ﷺ. Anyway, Mecca was, or Quraysh was able to bring about 10,000 soldiers against the Muslims 3,000. And Salman al-Farsi had the idea to dig the trench, right? And so the Muslims dig the trench, and inside of this trench, one of the champions of Mecca, of Quraysh, came down and is taunting the Muslims, saying all these horrible things, bring your best, whatever, you all are scared. If anybody wants to meet me in this particular trench and make their mothers cry or their wives cry, meet me in this trench. And so Ali is given the permission by the Prophet ﷺ to meet him. Ali's younger, much younger, and so he meets Ali, and he asks, "Who are you?" And Ali tells him who you are or who he is, and the man says, "Oh, your father is a good man. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fight you. Don't, send somebody else." He says, "No, but I want to fight you." So Ali's letting him know, "I want to fight you." And the Sahaba said that fighting began, and the dust started to build up in the trench to the point they could not see, and they're hearing the swords and the armor clashing, and then after a while they hear the roar of Allahu Akbar, and they see that Ali has won, that he's holding the head of the man that he killed in this particular battle. Ali was a fierce warrior, and so this is Ali in Al-Khandaq. Then in the siege of Khaybar are the Jews that were expelled, and so the Muslims went and they besieged the lands of Khaybar, and at Al-Khaybar they had many fortresses, and they overtook most of them, and then they came to the last one, and this last one was a bit of a difficulty for them to open. Abu Bakr went first with the banner to open it. Abu Bakr was unsuccessful, and then Umar went, and he was not successful. And then before the next day came, the Prophet ﷺ said that I will have someone who will open this gate, and he will love Allah and Allah will love him. He didn't say who it was. So you can imagine the Sahaba are excited. They want to be one of those people who Allah loves. So Umar was even saying that he felt that it might be him. So after a while, everybody shows up. Prophet ﷺ is outside, and he asks, "Where is Ali?" And they all say, don't worry about Ali. His eyes. He has had a condition where his eyes had like this It's mucus in it to the point that his eyes were really bad at this moment. Prophet said, bring him. They bring Ali. He takes his spit and he wipes his eyes. And Ali said after that day, he could see better than he had ever been able to see before. Right? And then Ali, the Prophet gives him the banner. And Ali lifts the door, or the gate, which was larger than a normal gate, larger than a normal door, but it wasn't one of those big, huge dungeon doors that you're thinking, but it was a sizable door. And he uses it and he waves it around like a shield, and he kills the men that were at the door, and they open it for the Muslims, and this is at Khaybar. So Ali, again, like we said, he was a fierce warrior. Once the Prophet ﷺ said of Ali, you are of me and I am of you. You know, what an amazing thing to say or have said about you. Meaning, you know, he meant that in lineage, family, you know, in love, in many different ways. Prophet ﷺ meant that, you know, that you are of me and I am of you. And so we move on past the death of the Prophet ﷺ, which Ali took care of some of the funeral arrangements for the Prophet ﷺ. He gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr, he gave bay'ah to Umar, he gave bay'ah to Uthman, and he never had a problem with doing that. For Abu Bakr, he was an advisor. For Umar, he was a judge many times. For Uthman, he was also an advisor. And so Ali was active. And in Uthman's Khilafah, Ali ended up becoming the senior most Sahabi at that time. If you could imagine, you know, no one accepted Islam at that time in Uthman's Khilafah before Ali. Ali was one of the, if not the, well, yeah, one of the earliest to accept Islam. During the life of Uthman, we said last week that Ali even sent his sons, Hassan and Hussein, to provide protection for the Khalifa Uthman at that time. You know, so there was love there. And inshallah, tomorrow we will talk about Ali's Khilafah and unfortunately his demise at the end of his life. But alhamdulillah, Ali was a great Khalifa. Anyway, today's question for the competition. I'll make it easy. Who were the four women? Who were the four women, or the four greatest women? We had mentioned the four greatest women, right? Who were they? Who are they, rather? I'm not going to tell you because to me it's easy and you should be able to find it. I said it. I named them one by one. It's in this particular lecture, so look through it. You should be able to find it, inshallah. And then Thursday, we will have all the questions, make sure everybody knows what they all are, inshallah, and remind everybody about the rules for the competition, inshallah, which we will probably finalize not this week, but next week. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the dars. I hope you learned a lot about Sayyidina Ali. I remember learning that I didn't know his name at first was Asad, so that was something new that I learned. So inshallah, we can continue this. And then after this, we'll go over one by one the rest of the Sahaba who were promised Jannah. Inshallah, I hope and pray the last day we could spend on Khadija bint Khuwaylid, because she is an extremely important Sahabiyat. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.